Well, thank you to all of you for joining this very pertinent discussion on a topic that's occupying all our minds. So, just in terms of introduction, just to set the scene, as lines between fintech companies, tech giants, and traditional banks become blurred, financial services providers need to keep up with changing technology and provide seamless, user friendly payment systems and other digital services, the entire suite of digital services from traditional banking to insurance and wealth management. So, which interfaces are redefining how we bank and invest? From intuitive mobile apps and AI driven personalization, how do you craft intelligent and intuitive digital solutions for customers? How are the user interfaces, and user experiences improving? And how might new technologies like AI, AR, and VR, which is augmented and virtual reality, change things, in the sort of recent or near future? So, just to sort of start the discussion, Mohammed, if I could ask you, because of the expectations that have been set up by highly personalized and sophisticated B2C interfaces, primarily pioneered by big tech, how has that impacted financial services products or the expectations for financial services products user interfaces? And how are financial services providers like yourselves adapting to changing technology to offer seamless, user friendly payment systems and other financial services?
Thank you. I believe it impacted financial services, not only financial services. Any service that gonna offer today via digital channels, it should at least up to the scale of the social media interfaces experience or beyond that. And this depends on the nature of the service. In our context today, we are talking about financial services. So how intuitive you can make these services within the hand of the user accessible, either via voice interface. It shouldn't be an app. So today, interfaces is going completely fragmented. So it is going from the app up to the interface, brain interface. So today you can have with this neural link, thinking of something that you would like to do, it happened before even you're intervening into that. So non-invasive and invasive communication with the user experience is keep evolving and keep changing. And I believe there will be a lot of changes happening in the current future. You mentioned augmented reality. The experience inside augmented reality today is still immature because still when you are inside Oculus Quest, would you would like to pay, you get an OTP that you need to get off and take that OTP and enter it again inside. So the experience is still you are on and off. It's not immersive experience. It's not being blended within the same context of that interface. For us, how we are looking into that, we usually data. So we read that from the data that is coming from the customer experience itself, the click streams, the strokes, the interactions that is happening, plus their backgrounds. So it depends on that customer. They are either teenagers, or they are kids, or they are mature, or they are an expert, professionals. So it depends on everyone experience and even appetite to accept how intuitive the app. There are people who would like to see some complexity in the app to feel secure, which is multi factor authentication for them. They feel secure. For kids, no, they don't want even OTP. They would like just to swap and payment done, or transfer done, or the item I want to purchase is done. So it depends on the segment that you are targeting. It depends on the audience profile and demographics. It depends on the click stream and the data that you are gathering by analyzing these
So
interfaces.
yeah, so that's sort of a very nuanced reply, I can guess. But if we could now sort of, I could turn to both Virginia and Dana. If you could contribute to setting the scene, these new expectations they result in both opportunities and challenges. So maybe Dana, you could take on some of the opportunities, and then Virginia, you could take on some of the challenges of these new expectations for user interface. Dana, start off.
Amazing. Assalamu alaikum jami'an. So basically, auto is very distinguished in terms of a business model and the way we operate. So we've created something called the OPMS. The OPMS is an online payment management solution, and it's like quite similar if you have a CRM, if you have a ERP, that falls in the same IT portfolio. So the OPMS today, the main objective is to streamline these online payments, and comes along auto. It's a B2B business model where we have to take care of our partners in terms of the large number of banks we have and their merchants. So we're talking to two key groups of people, whom are the banks, as in companies and their merchants. And then we have to take an extra milestone, which is the customer of these companies and merchants doing that online payments. So we have to take that extra milestone and discuss internally. We do a lot of brainstorming session, trend analysis, what's happening in terms of I'm pretty much sure, but I mean, in the GCC region, the consumer behavior, the digital consumer behavior is very different, and it's very fast paced. So we try our best to offer these in the features and models of auto. And the main objective here is to increase the number of online transactions for banks and as well for companies.
Virginia?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Um, so working for one of the traditional banks and access bank in Africa, one of the main challenges that will come is there's a lot of technology out there, um, but we still have to cater for three groups of people. So while I hear Mohammed saying, the user experience is key, whether you're young, whether you're older, you're absolutely right. Generation is key. Generation Z doesn't behave like Generation X, definitely will not behave like Generation Alpha coming. However, the current pace of, at least if you look at Africa being the size of the country it is, you still have about 36% of the adult population that is still unbanked, yet they have needs. You also will face certain challenges within that, where the ones who are banked and are more tech oriented, you only have a certain portion, probably 50% of them, who have smartphones. The others are regular feature phones. So when we as a bank are looking at how to use these opportunities and the techs that are available there, we have to consider a few things. One is our legacy systems. How do we scale up using this technology on such legacy systems? We have to look at our applications. Maybe you have over 200 applications today, while at the same time having a strong focus on almost doing it in parallel, which is really a big challenge of how do you cater for the fast transition of the digital space, but at the same time do not leave everybody else behind. And this is where the opportunity lies in terms of splitting what you do within bank itself to allow the growth. So as you face these challenges, there's the last one for us truly is the know-how, which is where the fintechs are really coming in and helping banks, because they do have a better systems foundation that they can use to help the bank navigate their legacy systems.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting comments, all of them. So we're moving on to the next segment about design and accessibility industry dynamics. And I want to stay with you, Virginie, to talk about the exploratory practices such as design thinking and how they contribute to creating these intuitive experiences, and whether the challenges that come across in terms of providing a user experience, there is a one size fits all formula. Of course not. Or perhaps there are different solutions for different verticals, or has evolving technology actually changed those things and you don't have to think about that trade-off?
So I think technology is definitely changing the way it has been done, but it's not a clean cut. So where the innovation comes in, you still need to adapt to the user experience. So I'll try and take a couple of examples where you take it from the lens of a customer and you take it from a lens of, for example, the business side. So I'll take something that everybody really understands, which is the typical one, which is a POS. So you'll have SMEs or MSMEs. You will come up with the solutions that says you can get instant settlement, you get your collections. That's not a problem. However, there is a part of the user which is really the one who operates the POS on a daily basis, and those are faced with different challenges that are linked, for example, to disputes that they need to go, maybe failed transactions, whatever those are. And what we tend to not be good enough yet is to realize that you don't have a one size fit all in what you determine, and that you should really have an interface for the one who manages the POS and is the user of the POS, where everything can be disputed on the spot from that same device. And we're talking the software development there. And at the same time, in the back end, it's fully reconciled with dashboards and instant settlement. So I think we're not at that level yet. But if I'll give a second example, which is what we've done at Access Bank, is realize that you you have, especially in Africa, a high level of failed transactions due to the infrastructure. However, there are ways to use the technology of online offline payment that allows you to look at that interface and the design to make things simpler, because at the end of the day you're still looking from the eyes of the customer and making things simpler. So we have something called BreezePay. So BreezePay allows you, from the background technology, what BreezePay does is allowing you really seamless offline transactions. However, we've taken that technology and started adapting it into campus. So for example, the way it works a lot I'll take it as an example, in Nigeria, you have campuses where you have universities. But on the university grounds, you'll have petrol stations, you'll have banks, you'll have where you can buy your groceries. So you basically live your life on campus. So when you have that concept of MSMEs, SMEs dealing with different, we came up using the technology to now say, let us create a closed ecosystem. So when you come in and you're part of that university, you now have a closed ecosystem using the concept of wallets, which is very, very predominant today. And those wallets means that it doesn't matter if you're going to the petrol shop or whatever, everybody's using the same app, and the money stays within the ecosystem. So never truly failing and making it extremely seamless. So the technology is a technology that is available everywhere, but we now take it and adapt it to a use case. And I think that's where user design and thinking has to go into.
Yeah. Dana, moving on to slightly related issue, which is if you want to provide a superior customer experience in specifically in financial services, it, does that trade-off still exist between modularity, which leads to higher personalization, or do you go the other way and make your solution more scalable, where it helps attract far more larger number of customers?
I understand. I honestly believe it's a balance between scalability and personalization. In our case, we offer a white label solution, and that white label solution is completely branded with the main objective of to empower the brand of the companies whom are using Auto. So we do not really co-brand nor market ourselves on anyone's behalf. When it comes to the tech part, we offer a full dashboard. That full dashboard, you get it as a whole, and you could actually tailor what you want to use or not use. So if you do not want to use the QR code payment, it's a matter of a click. If you want to deactivate any payment method in any region, it's also a matter of a click. So we do tend to give them that tailoring option. On the other hand, when we have companies, they take off with us with like 100 transactions per month, and then they jump onto 100,000 transaction per month. Our system does offer, scalability in terms of the tier. So we make sure the ecosystem technically is healthy to maintain and would be able to accept that much amount of transactions. And of course, we also have the user control, distribution, for the accessibilities, the multiple ways of reports and analytics and all of that. So we try to cover the full picture, and whatever the merchant wants can definitely tailor according to his needs for the better outcome of auto. Yeah.
Yeah, Mohammed, I'm going to turn to you now and stay with this theme of personalization. As the need for personalization goes up, there's also the need for greater financial inclusion and the ability to reach a wider audience. Do you see some of the new technologies that you mentioned in your opening comments, such as AR and VR, and maybe even AI? Are they now help, if you leverage all of them, can you now more easily deliver a more personal user experience where it caters to individual needs? I mean, AI, for example, possibly now has the ability to even anticipate needs and provide, that solution. And how can these new interfaces with high degrees of personalization, well-crafted solutions, how do they help, sort of navigate the complex problems of wealth management, savings, and so on and so forth? Can I have some comments on that?
Yeah, sure. In One Global, we are a venture builder. So we build actually the startup. And we help the startup during that building process. Very important part and component that we are focusing on is the usability, the UI UX. In order to come up with the right UI UX, we engineer it from bottom up. So it depends on the features, the services. We call it the micro experience. Every icon inside the app is an experience by itself because it maps to a certain community. So if that experience cannot be adapted well inside AR or VR, it shouldn't be there because you're gonna miss it because the first impression for the end user, the customer, is once they use it. So we'd rather to recommend that startup to defer it until they go to a better experience. Regarding the financial inclusion that can be accommodated with the experience, yeah, with crypto, with the blockchain. Today, if you have Lightning Network over Bitcoin, you can do a very seamless, intuitive, atomic transaction, instant recon, instant clearance, instant settlement, peer-to-peer, anywhere globally, using the Lightning Network over a Bitcoin. And we have a startup that we are helping in that context. So it depends on the use cases. Virgin, she said very important thing. They took the wallet, which is something abstract, it's everywhere, but they projected into certain use cases. And based on that certain use case, the experience need to be re-engineered. So in order to adapt and to become intuitive into that. And there were always a problem between the experience and the technology. So the underneath, you cannot ignore the ecosystem. So today, the ecosystem for the customer experience is the mobile manufacturers. If you talk about Apple today, they have certain limitations to do inside their interface. So you are limited into that context. If you go to Android, Android is more open. It gives you, for example, to run micro interactions inside the platform. It can tap into the biometrics. For example, today we have one of our startups in customer engagement. They are fully digital and they would like to have sentiment analysis because customer engagement is about the frustration that this customer is having. You would like to see if they are happy, if they are not. So emotional intelligence need to be adapted inside this customer experience. In order to do that, we have to tap into their voice. We have to tap into their facial. So to analyze this expression, facial expression, or the voice tone, and come up with an analysis that they are happy or not happy, or they are considering leaving you or staying with you. So the ecosystem itself also is a limitation that need to be considered when we are balancing the best customer experience that we can offer.
I mean, they're very interesting comments, especially the comparison between Apple and Android. Apple has always touted its privacy and safety features over any other ecosystem. So our last segment, and probably the most important one, is about security, emerging technologies, and future possibilities. So all our panelists have touched on some of those issues, but I'm actually going to come back to you, Mohammed, and start with you by asking about security and trust, right? That's an absolute crucial thing, especially when it comes to app uptake. The UI itself perhaps should engender some amount of trust. I'm going to give up so much personal information. In the case of fintech, I'm going to give up financial information, which is probably crucial of all. So how can an ecosystem or a user interface enhance security, trust, and ensure a consistent experience? Because whenever you get into an app, there is a learning curve. So how do we shorten them? I'm sorry, I'm asking for the moon at this point, but if you could encapsulate that, and how do fintech firms, how can they address them? What are the new practices that are being, that are taking care of many of these concerns?
I believe trust is not an easy to achieve, but if you are there when they are having a problem while using your interface, I believe the trust level will be increased. So whenever I have a problem while I'm using uh, the app or the interface, for example, one of our startups here in Bahrain is called Cashier. Those guys are very meticulous when their merchants are using their platform, how they will be getting an instant support in case of a problem because they are running behind another customers. So it's a B2B2C, which is very challenging. So for them, in order to offer this, so being there when there is a problem, this is will increase the level of trust. Second is that security is gonna also enhance the trust. So there is a trust level, there is an index that you keep feeding that trust level until you increase the bar. As much as you increase the bar, as much the customer is happy, as much you are engaging with the customer, and you can continue and reduce churn. So security today, we cannot do it ourselves. It has to be a joint effort. For example, in Bahrain, they are having their ecosystem of EKYC. So EKYC that offered by the CBB with the benefit, it offers a lot of security and governance for those customers that's been onboarded. So it's offloading the KYC part, so the customer, and left for us the transaction part, where you need to analyze behavior, come up with patterns in order to foster dynamic models for fraud prevention, plus uh, authentication. So authenticity is very important to have a kind of another factor that's coming from the government. For example, in Kuwait, we are having the digital identity is another sort of reconfirming that you are approving that transaction and you are the only one who's having that app from the government for a certain high amount transactions. But for the normal one, they are offering the OTP. So, but this OTP is still, it's impacting the experience. Getting the OTP via SMS and going to the SMS in order to take it, or even sometimes it's cached and showing, is still you are taking the user off that experience. And this is the challenge
It's
here.
not seamless. It's a
No,
bit of a
no
disruption.
intuitivity. It's not seamless. It's not homogeneous. So reaching that ultimate goal of having a completely immersive experience is gonna be always a challenge. But we are there. I believe it's a collaborative between the regulators. What are the controls that we can embed within the ecosystem to adapt? I believe sandboxes are very interesting play box to play with together with the regulators to reach to that ultimate. There are the authenticators today, Google Authenticator. If that authenticator can be embedded within the app itself and it generates the tokens and it push it directly to be tokenized with the transaction, So this is going to be the ultimate goal. Tokenization of transactions is going to be the best way, where the same cryptography tokenization model that is happening today with the blockchain mimicked into the real world transactions.
Fast payment systems and so on.
It's gonna reduce a lot of data and increase the security and trust.
I mean, interesting that you mentioned this, constant quest for excellence towards that ultimate seamless payment system. So, Dana, I mean, as you see the evolution of banking as a service, almost mimicking software as a service, it's so tech dependent now. How can the user interface itself act as a product differentiator? And perhaps you can provide some real world examples from your experience to illustrate any of the points that you're making.
First, let me tell you, sometimes when you work with bank, you take a huge challenge of maintaining their expectations. So this is exactly what we do. We have an ongoing project. It's called the merchant journey. We make sure that each and every department in Auto, for example, even when we expanded to Bahrain and when we expanded to Riyadh and Saudi Arabia, we make sure that the full entities of all of our regional offices take part in that. Now, this project, which is ongoing, aims that this merchant is always using Auto as a dashboard, because we did take a huge part helping banks and empowering them to connect, because our business is a direct integration. So it's really more like a transparent layer between companies and banks. Auto comes in the middle, and it gives the company the ability to speak the language of the bank itself. So once we do that, we tend to always do a lot of R&D and also think tanks and a lot of brainstorming, and we make sure that we utilize the project which is ongoing. Now, how we do that is that we have multiple departments. For example, we have the customer success department. They take care of the full integration and each and every single detail when it comes to the onboarding until they have the first successful live transaction. Once they're done, they get shifted to another department, and it's called the customer engagement department. And their objective as a department is to utilize the dashboard to increase the number of online transactions, which is also within the benefit of the bank itself. The third department is the technical support department we have. So we make sure that if there is a benefit version newly released, we make sure we integrate it. If there is an MPGS new release version update, we take care of the full integration. And of course, we do know that we come as an added value to the bank relations of Auto, because we do know how big of a challenge that it is, to cover the integration part, the onboarding part, the maintaining the system with the latest version part. So, and that all of that comes in a very unique way of not being offered a shared service. So each and every Auto merchant or a bank's merchant has their own servers. It's not shared. They have their full ecosystem individually and decoupled for them to be utilizing. I truly believe that is the highest way, and that is the highest technique of offering, let's say, security measurements when it comes to online payments.
I mean, again, those are real world insights that are so valuable for all of us. I'm turning to you now, Virginie, in talking about. So, in the past, you've seen one way of catering to innovation or creating innovation was large full service banks either acquiring fintechs or incubating fintechs and then spinning them off to cater to either emerging customer needs or to the needs of a absolutely new young customer, right? Do you see this continuing, or in your own experience has this changed already and a completely different strategy has taken its place?
Thank you, Swarup. So I think it will still continue, but it doesn't prevent the new trend coming on. So I'll try and explain on both. So the first one is banks in general, or even fintechs, are really driven by customer pain points. So there are certain pain points that drive this innovation. And that first element is creating two things. So first is bank may like the know-how and have too much legacy on their hands. So that is still going to continue for a while, where fintechs will either be created from banks as spin-off, so that they are playing with the technology while at the same time they're solving problems. So that will still continue. I think you have another element where banks are creating their own and staying their own. There's also the element of banks investing in fintechs, potentially acquiring fintechs. We see that quite a lot, but that only will help like solve particular pain points. Where we really truly see, at least me from a customer experience perspective, where I see things going is banking will disappear as we know it today. This is not what bank will be in 3 to 5 years time, when those Gen Zs and the latter part of the Gen Zs are now coming on. Why? Because they will never set foot in a banking hall. They'll look at an app, and I think you make it very clear.
Yeah, yeah.
OTP, no, 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 no. So you have to start leveraging blockchain and those tech for sure, to get to where we want to be. So what banks are also doing is starting to say collaboration, because we know we can't do it all in one go. So you'll start collaborating, putting fintechs, putting banks. Why? Because banks are very strong at risk management, very strong at cybersecurity management. So this is part of what regulators are forcing into banks. So then you're also working with the central banks and say, okay, how do we solve this problem while at the same time you're spinning something off for the next generation? Because we are clearly, the ones in this room are not the clients anymore. So when you look at that and you look at these Gen Zs and the alpha coming up, um, the challenge is, how do you embed finance in their everyday life? So, Mercedes-Benz and others and Apple have started going into it, where you can pay from your car, you can do so. We start seeing where finance is just a means to get something done. No longer your traditional banking services, and here we're talking retail customers, but it will be exactly the same when it comes to SMEs. SMEs have different needs of payroll, of others. So the trend that you see emerging is a second one I mentioned, which is more platformization, and that platformization and ecosystem. So what you are building really is financial services within an ecosystem. So if you are now going to buy a house or you're going to buy a car, that is the problematic you're solving. And how do you as a player bring in the tech, the fintechs, the security, the risk mitigation in this case, but at the same time the speed to bring it to the market and the tech to answer the true need. So this is why I mentioned at the beginning, where we do one thing, but now we have to look at creating, and that creating can only happen through collaboration. So the sooner banks, fintechs, tech giants are coming together to collaborate and create this ecosystem, we will be in a better place.
I think you've already answered some of the issues that we addressed with probably today's last question, which is defining the future user experience. You've already spoken about Gen Z quite a bit. So, which technologies do you think are going to define the customer experience of the future? We've talked a little about Mohammed's talked about several of them. So we've touched on AR, VR, AI, etc. But what do you think is going to happen immediately, and what looks more distant on the horizon towards crafting, as he clearly mentioned, that seamless ideal payments or customer interface?
So if you look at the news, right, you'll hear about metaverse and hear everything all over the place. But if you look on the ground and what is being done, yes, you have metaverse there, you have those, but I think it's again because we're completely disconnected from the true need that is sitting in front of us and what really every customer has. So if I'll take those into two generation, for example, I'll take about the Gen Z and I'll talk about the Gen Alpha, which are still very young, but that's going to illustrate. So the first generation, they're going to need financial advice, right? They're going to, most of them are into investment, so they are going to go into securities and wealth management very early on, and for that you have a need to collect data to use AI. And how do you really bring in this AI to draw the data, but at the same time offer that ultra personalization that they'll require. But we talked about this element of trust this morning in the panel of AI, and I think truly the Gen Z doesn't have any problem of trust with robots. They really truly do not, because they haven't had that experience of face to face truly. So when we're talking AI, we're really gearing up to this Gen Z and their true need, which is I want it now, I want it how I want it. And truly today, if I go on Facebook to find my information, clearly I will also trust the AI to just give me that same information. So I don't think there is a problem of trust, and I think that AI will be there for them. And from a bank perspective, you still need to get innovation, but you need to get a return on your investment. So when you're looking at metaverse, yes, is there, but truly, what's in it for me too as a bank? What's coming in? That value for money isn't tangible like AI is, because AI is also a way. We talked about customer, but we talk also internal. So there's a lot of part of the AI coming in to really solve problems within the back office of the bank. So that is much more appealing from an immediate perspective. When you talk about AR, VR, I'll refer to it where can we apply some of it today? Definitely, you can. Projecting them what it would be looking like in a few years, when they stage from like a student to a working life to retirement, you can use that. However, where I see it really coming in, it will be in the metaverse. So but it's not for now. We're not ready as a bank, for example, to jump into the metaverse. How can we be ready to jump into the metaverse is more the current one that are there. So there are metaverses, for example, in Nigeria, there are two very big ones, one in fashion, one in art. So again, if you go back to the concept of banking embedded in the lifestyle, this is how do you now go inside that metaverse and allow seamless payments through the metaverse. That is truly where banking can use it. So when I see banks going and opening a booth inside the metaverse, no. That's not how, as a consumer, I see that. But are we ready? Yes, we can do it. The problem is there's nobody in those metaverses today. That's truly so. Again, the value and the investment, the technology. You need the Web3, the cybersecurity on that technology is such that banks, at least traditional bank and us, are not ready to make that jump until those laws and others are a bit better because we're highly regulated. So just to finish on that, I would just say that finance in the metaverse will really be like embedded within those, and I will see it much more coming alive with the alpha generation who are already up there.
I mean, fantastic discussion, and the ability that all of you have to simplify some really complex technical concepts is unparalleled. And I think we can open the floor for at least a couple of questions. I think we can have a microphone circulating. I can see one hand up, a gentleman right behind. If you could, someone could please.
A couple of them.
Hi, Tom Gilbert from Keypoint. Who's your relationship with? If banks wither away and we're doing B2B to C, who has your money? And how does the bank keep my money? If it's the app developer who I'm interacting with, then HSBC or NBB or BBK is solution dependent. So you're using an app and they're all using the same app. So how do I choose bank A over bank B?
I don't know who that's for.
You want to go first, and then she can follow?
No, I would like to reconfirm the question. So you are talking about the movement of the money between bank accounts, or what do you mean by?
I'm old, right? So old people have a
You are
relationship.
not old, you are senior.
No. I'm definitely not
That's a big
senior.
difference.
But older people tend to have a relationship with a bank.
With the bank.
Correct.
Whatever the bank is. And we're now seeing the withering away of a infrastructure that had names. So you had Lloyd's, or you had Access, or you had NBB. And if you're losing that relationship with the bank because I actually have a relationship with One Global or with Otto, where does that relationship between the bank who has my money and me as the person who's supposed to have the money,
Whoever.
where does it sit?
Okay.
Okay.
If
Yeah, I
You
think we
want to
can
take
have
it,
some
please?
reactions.
because you
Yeah.
mentioned auto, so
Okay.
I would clarify it. Sorry, let me tell you something. In auto, we do not share any revenue with banks. We actually make money to banks. So we bring back the merchants of that, for example, MBB or National Bank of Kuwait or whatever you want to call it. We help them in attaining the market by increasing the number of market acquisition, and that automatically falls with the growth of their sales. So in our case, no one has our money. The companies have their money. Our members, the subscribers of Auto, they are the people who are paying us. And we do not do also, I mean, in our case, we're not a PSP, we're not a third party, we are not an aggregator. In our, let's say, corner of things, we are just a router or an adapter for companies to get linked directly to their bank accounts. So who has my money as Auto is companies whom would like to conduct direct integration with their banks. So banks, we are truly partners in I mean, for Auto's network of partners and all over the MENA region, we truly
You don't
just
compete
complement
with
each
banks,
other.
you
You get
facilitate.
me?
Mohammed, you want to go?
I believe his question is about B2C.
Yeah.
And this is more relevant to our, we have a company called OG Money,
Okay.
which is a super app that embed a wallet and card inside the app as a neobank. Uh, it depends on the regulator. If it is a bank led, so the money stays with the bank and you don't have accessibility to that liquidity inside the wallets. If it is fintech led, if it's a PSP license, then the money resides into a client's account that is audited and regulated by the bank, but it's in our client account as a service provider. So it depends on the regulated
License.
activity and license that you got from the regulators inside the country. Money always will stay inside the banks because they are the vault. But with CBDC, things will change. Central bank digital currency, you don't need to have that big
I think,
bulletproof vault and room to keep cash.
I think,
It's all tokens,
yeah,
and anyone can have this crypto wallet or token wallet.
yeah.
Your assets and your money, everything in one place. You go anywhere you
Yeah,
want.
I mean, we'll still have to see whether CBDCs, they don't disrupt banks at all, or whether they actually tend to go and
It's
disrupt. But
not gonna disrupt banks. It's gonna make them invisible.
right, right.
So they will be under the hood. You see Matrix movie, everything is.
I'm afraid we're completely out of time. Thank you, everyone, for such an engaging and interesting discussion.
still
Pleasure
free.
speaking to all of you. Please stay on for the next interactive session with Josh Roberts. Thank you so
Thank you,
much
sir.
for
Thank you.
participating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.